welcome aboard. If you're just now joining us, this is FS MaNiA's flight from Dutch Harbor to Cold Bay, Alaska. We're currently level at 7,000 feet en route, and we're flying the, of course, A2A Piper COMANCHE, and loving this airplane, absolutely. We're using radio navigation because our GPS is out of the airplane and it's out of order, so we're having to fly with the radio navigation, and we're right now navigating with the ADF, and you can see that we're tracking outbound from the Dutch Harbor NDB, and we are going to Morty intersection, which is 79 nautical miles away from the NDB. Since there's a DME co-located with that NDB, we've got that dialed in over here, and it's showing right now we're at 60 miles, so we got about another 19 miles to Morty, and then we'll be making a turn inbound to the Elfie NDB, so we'll track inbound to that on the 059 bearing, and there's some more to it, but we'll get there in just a bit. So we got about a little less than 20 miles before we turn, and I'll share a few fun facts about Cold Bay. Cold Bay is a city in the Aleutians East Borough, Alaska, and interestingly, as of 2010, the census recorded a population of a whopping 108 people. In spite of that, Cold Bay is one of the main commercial centers in the Alaska Peninsula and is home to the Cold Bay Airport, which is where we're headed. There is evidence of prehistoric occupants by Aleuts and later Russian encampments, but Cold Bay's American history began with the Japanese invasion of the Aleutians in World War II. At that time, a air base was built there and became a base for the 11th Air Force, whose mission was to provide protection to the only deep-water port in the Aleutians at the time, and that was coincidentally Dutch Harbor, from whence we came. And that airfield has since passed on to civilian authorities and is mostly used for fueling and emergency landing needs on Great Circle flights from the west coast of the U.S. over to East Asia. It ranks the 5th longest runway in Alaska, and so I think it's a little over 10,000 feet. And there was a myth that at one time that it was a emergency landing site for the space shuttle, but NASA has since debunked that myth. It's an urban legend, and said no, it's out of the range from the space shuttle's entry profile. So anyway, there have been some emergency landings made there at Cold Bay. We will talk about those in a few minutes. Just keeping an eye on our distance and making sure we're staying on course, and everything's looking good on our panel. So Cold Bay is a sort of a highly transient community, you might say. It doesn't have the generational attachment characteristics of surrounding native villages. Residents that are drawn there are mostly drawn by the wildlife refuge, the weather service, or air traffic control jobs. They rarely stay in Cold Bay longer than a year. Cold Bay has the dubious distinction of being one of the, actually ranked the most overcast city in the U.S. So that might explain why people don't like to hang out there very long. The school in Cold Bay employed one teacher, and it served the community's 4 to 9 students for the past 3 years. But last year, or this year actually, back in May, the school board decided to close the school at Cold Bay, so that's a shame. Anyway, it has one store called the Barefoot Inn, and it was formerly known as the world famous Weathered Inn. You get it? Weathered Inn, I-N-N. And I expect a lot of people that go to Cold Bay end up getting weathered in. So we're 10 miles away from our turn. And one thing that's going to happen happen. Let me just mention the NDB versus the VOR. This is low frequency, this is high frequency. And since we're using the low frequency, actually part of the reason you see a lot of NDBs out in these areas where there's long distances and no land places to put radio nav aids, the VOR that is used with these radios is line of sight transmission. So in order to receive them when you get far away from the station, you do have to be up pretty high, curvature of the earth and so forth. The NDB, which is low frequency, actually those waves more follow the curvature of the earth, so you can pick them up further away at lower altitude. So they're good for that. They do have the kind of nasty habit of being interfered with by several things, and one of which is thunderstorms. And in fact, if you're navigating to a station and there's a thunderstorm around, the needle will actually point towards the storm, leading the unwary pilot right into the storm. So you have to be careful with that. This is a radio that really doesn't get used that much in the continental United States, but out here in the Aleutians it's used quite a bit for approaches and for en route navigation, so which is what we're doing. And what will happen though, you'll watch this, you see right now our needle's holding steady on our tail, and at 75 nautical miles we're going to lose the signal. The station is going to go offline, and that's the magic number for flight simulator, I suppose. And I would expect the needle might be moving back and forth a little bit rather than just quit. But right now it's showing a nice strong steady signal there, and I expect if we monitor it we might even hear it. But actually what's going to happen is, if we don't hear the tone first, at 75, which is right here, watch this, boom, we just lost the station. So what we're going to do, we've still got another 4 miles to go. I'm going to go ahead and tune in the ELF VOR, the ELF NDB, and that frequency is 341, so let's put that in here. There we go. Now, I don't know if we'll pick it up this far out. We may not. And in fact, I don't think we will, because, and I'm going to keep that in so we will hear it. And maybe we are picking it up. I don't know. I don't think we are. But we're going to make our turn, and our heading's going to be 059. So at 79 miles, or we're going to start our turn actually at 78 and a half. Lead it by about a half a mile. We're going to turn to the right to 059, and we're going to head inbound towards this station. And then we'll set up some of our arrival using the VOR. The other thing we can do once we turn here at 78 and a half is we can switch over. I've tuned in the Cold Bay VOR, which also has DME, so we'll know how far out we are. So here comes 78.3, 0.4, 0.5, so let's go ahead and start that turn over to 059. And let's get in here and be sure we get it dialed in there pretty accurately. There we go. And I can see the needle here is not moving, so even though we're navigating an airway using this VOR, NDB, we're not even really receiving it right now, but we will ultimately. And if I switch this one over to Cold Bay, we're 83 miles out. So therefore you can see we're a little far out to be picking it up, even if it's a normal strength VOR NDB. So we're going to pick it up, just not yet. So we're kind of having to fly a little bit just on blind faith here. But I'm sure we're going to be fine. So we've got the Cold Bay VOR in here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in down here. There's the ILS for Cold Bay, the localizer frequency, and here's the VOR frequency. I'm going to go ahead and tune that in, and since we're picking it up, what we're going to be doing actually is intercepting the 250 radial. The reciprocal of that is 070, so I'm going to put this right now on 070. And actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to put this one on 250. And this is what we're going to use to fly the DME arc with. So there's the 250 radial right there. And it shows it to the right, but you can see that we're showing a from indication, and it's actually to our left. So that can get confusing. You have to look and see where the little flag's pointing to. So let's come back over here on this one, since we've got it tuned in there, and we'll bring this one to the 070. And then let me get up here again so I can see. So 070 is right there. So that's the radial, that's the reciprocal of the 250 radial, and you see it's a to from, and it's showing it to our left, and that makes sense, and that's what we want to intercept and fly inbound. And right now we're 78 miles out, so we got a little ways to go. In fact, where we're going to start our descent and where we're going to turn to intercept that is at an intersection that's called tuna, like tuna, and that will be our top of descent. That's 30 miles out from the DME, so we got 48 miles to go to get there, and then we'll start our descent and turn to intercept that 250 radial, track it inbound to within 10 DME, and then we'll fly the DME arc. That'll be fun, lots of fun. So let me see, was there anything else interesting about Coal Bay that I wanted to share? Well, they've got 108 people. There are no families there. Everybody that's there is basically single, and no one lives there is under the age of 18, and no one that lives there is under the over the age of 64. So it is not for the young or the faint of heart. The main runway, as I said, is the 5th largest in Alaska. It was built during World War II. It's 1.5 and 3.1, a little over 10,000 feet long. And the National Weather Service has an office there. They send up weather balloons twice a day. And let's see, what else I'll tell you about Coal Bay. There's not much, honestly. Couple of incidents that happened there in 1973. A World Airways flight, which was operating as Military Airlift Command cargo flight, crashed into Mount Dutton on approach to Coal Bay. That's about a 5,000-foot peak. That is on the other side of the airport from the side we're approaching on. So we'll try not to hit that. There were 6 people killed when that happened. And then in 2013, a Delta Airlines 767, it was en route from Tokyo to San Francisco, and it landed on the airport due to an engine shutdown. There were 167 passengers on board, no injuries. So I think that's about all I got for Coal Bay. Starting to see some of the volcanic peaks off there in the distance, and those go up to about 10,000 feet, and some of these are actually active out here in the Aleutian Islands, and sometimes you'll get NOTAMs out here for volcanic ash. So it's something to be watchful for. We're 70 miles out, and we still haven't picked up that station. And it is also an outer marker for the ILS, and it may be a lower class station in terms of its strength, so we may have to get closer to it to pick it up. We're just going to keep holding that heading that we're on, and until we get to that intersection, which I said was Tuna, when it's 30 miles out, we're going to go ahead and intercept this 250 radial right here. So we got about 40 miles still to go at this cruise speed, and hopefully we'll pick this up here in the not too distant future. And I think I'll just break right here and come back when we get a little bit closer, so as not to bore you too much with these fun facts and cruising. And when I come back, I'll tell you a little story about these ashtrays right here. Okay, we'll see you in a few.
235, contact Anchorage Center 133.7. Have a nice flight.
33.7, Peninsula 235, good day.